Very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you, and here are this morning's headlines. Big boost for India's fight against terror. BRICS countries issue declaration naming Pakistani-based terror groups including LET, JEM and Haqqani network. Prime Minister to hold bilateral meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit, says forum officers robust framework for cooperation. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu says caste has lost relevance, blames political parties for keeping it alive for ulterior purposes. "49 infants die at the government hospital in Farrukhabad, Uttar Pradesh in 1 month. Chief Medical Officer sacked. District Magistrate removed. 25 more children die at Gorakhpur's BRD in 48 hours. And Kim Jong-un is begging for war, says the United States. Presses UN Security Council to cut off oil and other fuel supply to the country. China reluctant. The top story this morning, all eyes are on the crucial bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping today on the sidelines of the ongoing BRICS summit in China's Xiamen city. Now, this is the first meeting between the two leaders after the prolonged Doklam standoff that ended just over a week back. And the meeting comes a day after India achieved a major diplomatic victory with China at the BRICS summit, where Prime Minister Modi got all member countries on board in the fight against terrorism. So here is a look at what India achieved at the 9th BRICS summit and the agreement signed here. Akhilesh Suman reports.
In a significant diplomatic victory for India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was joined by Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Brazilian President Michel Temer and South African President Jacob Zuma in strongly denouncing terrorism. They also named for the first time Pakistan-based terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. In a strongly worded declaration condemning terror, the BRICS nations compared LET and JEM to the Islamic State terror group. Adopted at the end of the five-nation BRICS plenary, the 43-page Xiamen declaration stressed the need for an immediate end to the violence in Afghanistan. The statement by the BRICS leaders said, "We strongly condemn terrorist attacks resulting in death to innocent Afghan nationals. We, in this regard, express concern on the security situation in the region and violence caused by the Taliban, ISIL, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates including Eastern Turkestan Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, the Haqqani network, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, TTP and Hizb ut-Tahrir."
Terrorism is a scourge that has to be addressed collectively by the entire international community. And I think increasingly there is a realization that you cannot have double standards in tackling this scourge.
Although Pakistan was not named in the declaration, it makes a strong reference to the need for states to act against terror. It says, "We deplore all terrorist attacks worldwide, including attacks in BRICS countries, and condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, wherever committed and by whomsoever, and stress that there can be no justification whatsoever for any act of terrorism. We reaffirm that those responsible for committing, organizing or supporting terrorist acts must be held accountable." Getting China to agree on a statement that refers to Pakistan-based terror is significant since it had resisted the move at last year's summit in Goa. According to officials, Prime Minister Modi raised the issue of terrorism strongly at the BRICS summit this time and was joined by other leaders who expressed willingness to fight this menace.
You cannot have good and bad terrorists, and it is a collective action. Members of the BRICS countries have themselves been victims of terrorism, and I would say that what has come out today acknowledges the fact that we must work collectively in handling this.
The BRICS nations also agreed on an India-sponsored comprehensive convention against international terrorism. The consensus statement of the member countries found a prominent place in the joint declaration. However, after being part of such a strongly worded declaration on terrorism and indicting Pakistan-based terror groups, it remains to be seen how China will act on the designation of Jaish chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist by the UN. Currently, China has put on hold the proposal moved by the US and some other countries at the UN Sanctions Committee.
This would not be very easy for China to speak against Pakistan-sponsored terrorists. But once China has done it, it means it wants greater cooperation with India. Now, India might reciprocate it positively in coming days. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya television with camera person Shiv Kumar.
And after the diffusion of the Doklam standoff last week, both India and China have given positive signs of cooperation in the 9th BRICS summit being held in Xiamen. Now, Prime Minister Modi urged all BRICS nations to be part of India and France-led International Solar Alliance. Now, making a strong case for the Indian economy, Prime Minister Modi called on the member nations to come together for development. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also met Russian President Vladimir Putin and Brazilian President Michel Temer on the sidelines of the BRICS summit on Monday. Here's a report.
Welcomed on the podium by Chinese President Xi Jinping at the 9th BRICS summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a strong case for the Indian economy. He listed the strengths of India's digital economy for investors from China and other member countries.
India has also found that technology and digital resources are powerful tools in fighting poverty and corruption. A strong BRICS partnership on innovation and digital economy can help spur growth, promote transparency, and support the sustainable development goals.
The Prime Minister also mentioned smart city projects and the growing township opportunities in India. He said renewable energy could be a binding force for cooperation. In this regard, he also invited BRICS members to join the International Solar Alliance.
BRICS countries can work closely with ISA to strengthen the solar energy agenda. Our 5 countries have complementary skills and strengths to promote use of renewable and solar energy. The NDP can also establish an effective link with ISA to support such cooperation.
Prime Minister Modi later took part in the Business Council meeting where he called upon member nations to come together for development. He also urged them to take part in the Make in India and Startup India endeavours. Later, Prime Minister Modi met Russian President Vladimir Putin and Brazilian President Michel Temer on issues of bilateral importance.
President Putin, he recalled Prime Minister's visit to Russia earlier this year, and he thanked the Prime Minister for high-level participation from India at the Eastern Economic Forum. Several aspects of bilateral issues were discussed. Cooperation in the oil and natural gas sector, trade and investment, how the two countries should work together to promote trade and investment.
Modi also attended a banquet hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping for BRICS heads of governments. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And the BRICS countries also strongly condemned North Korea's nuclear test, asserting that the prolonged nuclear issue in the Korean Peninsula should only be settled through peaceful means. Now, in its Xiamen declaration signed on Monday, the BRICS nations said, "We express deep concern over the ongoing tension and prolonged nuclear issue in the Korean Peninsula and emphasized that it should only be settled through peaceful means and direct dialogue of all the parties concerned." Now, the strong worded statement from the BRICS nations comes amid a global condemnation of the North Korea's move. The declaration came a day after North Korea carried out its most powerful nuclear test to date, claiming to have developed an advanced hydrogen bomb that could sit atop an intercontinental ballistic missile. Earlier, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to appropriately deal with the latest nuclear test by North Korea. The two leaders discussed North Korea in a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the BRICS summit on Sunday. And after his meeting with the Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will fly to Myanmar on a bilateral visit. Now, Prime Minister Modi will reach Myanmar's capital city of Naypyidaw. His first bilateral visit to the country. He is slated to meet Myanmar President Hithin Kyaw, who will host a banquet for him. Prime Minister Modi will also hold wide-ranging talks with the State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi. Later, Prime Minister Modi will travel to Bagan, where India is involved in development cooperation project. He will also visit Yangon to hold a series of engagements, including an interaction with the Indian community. During the three-day visit, both the sides are expected to ink various agreements. The issue of exodus of Rohingya community in the Rakhine state is also expected to come up during the talks. Besides, ways to deepen security and defense cooperation and the implementation of India-assisted development projects are also likely to figure during the talks. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi had visited Myanmar in 2014 for the ASEAN-India summit. On to some other news now. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj in Russia to participate in the Third Eastern Economic Forum. Now, the visit reflects the importance attached by India to emerging opportunities in the Russian Far East and its strategic partnership with Russia. Now, during her visit, she will participate in the opening ceremony of the forum on 6th of September, as well as hold bilateral meetings with Russia's Deputy Prime Minister, as well as Foreign Minister and governors of some of the Far Eastern regions. The high-level Indian participation follows the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the guest of honor at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum in June 2017. On to some other news. Now, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has said that caste as an institution has lost relevance today. Now, stating that it was time that governments shifted focus to inclusive growth, he blamed the political parties for keeping it alive for ulterior purposes. Now, addressing the civil servants in Hyderabad on Monday, the Vice President asked the political parties to stop using caste as a tool. He also said that a corrupt system hurts the country and stated that inclusive growth should be the lone agenda for governments. He also spoke of how Prime Minister Narendra Modi has asked him to make the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan a people's movement. The Vice President was speaking at the 92nd Foundation course for All India Civil Services Officers at Hyderabad.
Governments of the day should focus more on inclusive growth. And every Indian should feel that I have a stake in this system. I am part of this developmental process. Otherwise, democracy, freedom has no meaning. Even after 70 years of Swaraj, some of these inequalities, they are staring at us. So we have to address them. Maybe the governments are addressing it. Irrespective of political this thing, one has to address these issues of inclusive growth, bringing into the net of the development. Because development is the need of the hour.
And now an update on the President's Gujarat visit. And on the second day of his visit, President Ramnath Kovind emphasized on the need to make optimal use of natural resources, including water, so that sufficient food could be produced for the country's 1.25 billion people. President Kovind said this while laying the foundation stone for a new pipeline link of the state government's ambitious Saurashtra Narmada irrigation project. He also offered prayers at the Gila Somnath temple. Now, Gujarat Governor O.P. Kohli, Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, Deputy Chief Minister Nitin Patel and several MLAs and MPs accompany the President. The President also praised the state government for its water conservation efforts. He also said that in the dry areas of Gujarat, around 144-kilometer long branch of canal network has been completed. The President also underlined that proper and optimal use of water helps in farm cultivation and improving farmers' income. And in Breakfast News, time for a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, several new ministers have taken charge after the cabinet expansion on Sunday. Many portfolio of ministers were also changed, and the new ministers also underscored their priorities. Here's a look at a report.
Piyush Goyal took charge as the Railways Minister on Monday. He was elevated to cabinet rank in the Sunday's reshuffle. He replaced Suresh Prabhu. Piyush Goyal said that huge investments in railways has been made in the past 3 years that will lead to the development of the railways.
वास्तव में उन्होंने तो एक प्रकार से पटड़ी साफ कर दी है, रास्ता निर्धारित कर दिया है, जिसपे माननीय मनोज सिन्हा जी, माननीय राजन कोहेन जी और मुझे उस पटड़ी पे चलना है जो सुरेश जी ने हम सबके लिए निर्धारित की है.
Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan took additional charge of the Skill Development Ministry on Monday. Anant Kumar Hegde also assumed his new role as Minister of State in the Skill Development Ministry, created 3 years ago with a focus on job creation.
लगभग 10 करोड़ नौजवान हर एक साल भारत की जॉब मार्केट में आते हैं. हम लोगों की जिम्मेदारी है इन लोगों को एक स्वाभिमान की जिंदगी जीने की मौका हम दें. उस काम पे ये सरकार तत्पर है. पिछले 3 साल में एक नया विभाग गठन करके इनिशिएटिव शुरू किया है, उसको एक गति देना है.
Gajendra Singh Shekhawat and Krishna Raj took charge as MOS for Agriculture. They said their priority will be to achieve the objective to double farmers' income by 2022.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो लक्ष्य है कि हम 2022 तक किसान की आमदनी दोगुना करेंगे, उसको पूरा करना हम सब की प्राथमिकता भी है और कर्तव्य भी है.
परंपरागत खेती में वर्षों से अपनी भूमिका अदा करती हैं, उनको एक नए मुकाम पे पहुंचाना और उनको कृषि महिला कृषक के रूप में लोग जाने, ऐसा हमारा प्रयास होगा.
Taking charge as the new MOS Health and Family Welfare, Ashwini Kumar Choube said enhancing awareness on public health and reducing people's dependence on medicines will be high on his agenda.
सभी आरोग्य रहें, ये कल्पना करते हुए सभी भद्र हों और सभी एक दूसरे पीड़ित मानवता की सेवा में लगे रहें, यही हमारा शाश्वत है.
Rajyavardhan Singh Rathod took over as a Minister of State with independent charge for youth affairs and sports. He said his ministry will make sure that sportspersons get both facilities and respect.
इस मंत्रालय का जो लक्ष्य रहेगा, जो फिलॉसफी रहेगी, वो होगी सम्मान और सुविधा. हर खिलाड़ी के लिए सम्मान और जो देश के लिए खिलाड़ी खेल रहे हैं उनके लिए सुविधा.
4 ministers were elevated to cabinet rank and 9 new ministers were inducted as ministers of state in a major cabinet rejig by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday. With inputs from Navvikram Singh and Kriti Mishra, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, businesses will have more time to file their final GST returns as the government on Monday extended the last date for the filing of sales and purchase data. The government has also extended the dates for the payment of taxes for the months of July and August. Now, sales return or GSTR1 for the month of July will have to be filed by 10th of September and purchase returns or the GSTR2 will be filed by 25th of September. GSTR3, which is the match of GSTR1 and GSTR2, will have to be filed by 30th of September. And the industry has been demanding an extension of the data of filing of the final GST returns in view of scores of invoices to be uploaded. The government will shortly issue notification to extend the date for filing of returns. Now, moving on, another tragedy struck a UP hospital, this time in Farrukhabad. In what seems like a repeat of the Gorakhpur incident, 49 newborns lost their lives in 30 days at the Ram Manohar Lohia Government Hospital. Now, an investigation by the city magistrate said that deprivation of oxygen was the cause of most of these deaths. The DM, the Chief Medical Officer as well as the Chief Medical Superintendent of the hospital have been sacked.
In less than a month after over 70 children died in Gorakhpur state-run hospital, a similar shocker has come from Farrukhabad district of Uttar Pradesh. As many as 49 infants died in the last 30 days at the Ram Manohar Lohia hospital in the district due to lack of oxygen and shortage of medicines. The deaths were reported between July 20th and August 30th in the neonatal ICU and 19 during deliveries. Chief Medical Officer and Chief Medical Superintendent have been sacked. The district magistrate has also been removed. An FIR was registered against the CMO and CMS.
इसमें CMO, CMS और कुछ डॉक्टर्स के खिलाफ है और इसमें 176, 188 और 304 IBC के अंतर्गत मुकदमा कायम है। इसमें जो आख्या है प्लस जो भी पुलिस को और साक्ष्य मिलेंगे उसके आधार पर कार्रवाई की जाएगी।
That Gorakhpur incident is only a tip of an iceberg. More and more smaller Gorakhpur incidences are occurring every day. The very fact 3 lakh children die before the age of 5 because of diarrhea, it means preventable death should be audited and no preventable death should take place.
The matter came to light after the state government took cognizance of the matter over some local channels' reports on the deaths and directed the district magistrate to conduct a probe. Taking note of the incident, a team comprising the city magistrate and SDM was formed to probe the deaths. The probe found that 30 deaths were due to lack of oxygen.
20 बच्चों की एपिलेक्सिया से मौत का कारण उन्होंने दर्शित किया। अब एक एसेप्सिया जो है उसका जो है पूरा अर्थ निकल के नहीं आ रहा, क्या ऑक्सीजन की कमी है, क्या और अन्य कोई बीमारी है। तो इस तरह से उनकी नेग्लिजेंस वहाँ की प्रतीत होती है, यही जांच में निकल गया है।
Opposition parties has slammed the Yogi Adityanath-led UP government for the tragedy.
उत्तर प्रदेश के अंदर बच्चे मर रहे हैं, माँ बाप बिल्कुल एक बेचारों की तरह से खड़े हुए हैं। उनकी समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि उनका भविष्य, उनकी औलाद जिंदा भी रहेगी या नहीं रहेगी, क्योंकि उत्तर प्रदेश आज इलाज को लेकर किसी भी सूरत में संवेदनशील नहीं।
The priorities of the UP government and the BJP at large are different. They are not paying attention to the health of children, the mothers, and the poor marginalized sections of Indian society.
It is so shocking, so tragic, and these deaths can be avoided if the public health system in Uttar Pradesh is properly audited by the government, and particularly after the Gorakhpur tragedies, when hundreds of children literally have died.
Meanwhile, doctors have gone on strike at the Ram Manohar Lohia hospital after the FIR was registered. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in Gorakhpur, 24 more children have died at the BRD Medical College Hospital in the last 48 hours. While 9 children died on Sunday, 15 others died in the various wards of the hospital on Monday. And with this, the toll in the BRD College Hospital has gone up to 1,341 so far this year. Meanwhile, the Allahabad High Court refused to stay the arrest of a Gorakhpur BRD Medical College doctor named in an FIR lodged in connection with the death of children there. The court dismissed the petition by the head of the anesthesia department in the medical college, against whom an FIR has been lodged. Now, he's among the 6 people named in the FIR registered following the death of children there. And now an update on the Rohingya immigrants in our country. The Supreme Court has sought to know the stand of the centre on a petition challenging its decision to deport illegal Rohingya Muslim immigrants back to Myanmar. The court has asked Additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta to take instruction from the centre about its response. The petition says that the centre's decision violated international human rights conventions. The matter has been posted for 11th of September. Now, Advocate Prashant Bhushan, appearing for the 2 Rohingya immigrants in our country, wanted an assurance that the centre will not take any step, including the deportation of the immigrations, till the case is heard. Violent attacks allegedly by Myanmarese army men have led to an exodus of Rohingya tribals from the western Rakhine state there to India as well as to Bangladesh. Now, many of them have settled down in Jammu and Kashmir, Hyderabad, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi NCR and Rajasthan. Our top international focus now, after North Korea's latest test, the United States, while warning that Kim Jong-un was begging for war, is now pressing the members of the United Nations Security Council to cut off all the oil and other fuels to the country. However, with China's reluctance to take that step, it is unclear how much of that idea can actually be put into practice. Meanwhile, with South Korea cautioning that the rogue regime is preparing for another test, US and South Korea are also getting war ready with military drills and the deployment of more weapon systems in the Korean peninsula.
Nuclear powers understand their responsibilities. Kim Jong-un shows no such understanding. His abusive use of missiles and his nuclear threats show that he is begging for war.
Saying that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was begging for war, US urging the United Nations Security Council to adopt the strongest sanctions to stop Pyongyang's nuclear program. At a Security Council emergency meeting, Nikki Haley minced no words in pointing that North Korea's 6th nuclear test was a clear sign that the time for half measures from the United Nations had to end.
War is never something the United States wants. We don't want it now. But our country's patience is not unlimited. We will defend our allies and our territory.
The US will table a new UN resolution shortly to toughen sanctions that look to cut off all oil and other fuels to the country. However, there are doubts that it will work because of the Chinese reluctance to take that step. Trump earlier had also threatened that it would stop all trade with any country doing business with North Korea. However, with 90% North Korea's trade coming from China, Beijing hit back, saying that Trump's proposition was unfair.
接受的是，一方面为和平解决朝核问题付出艰辛的努力，另一方面自身的利益却遭受制裁或者损害，这既不客观。
The developments came a day after North Korea's most powerful nuclear test in 11 years. Nuclear test ban watchdog called the test as a last wake-up call for international community to act.
We're not speculating, but what is certain this time is that the physics of this event shows quite a large event. I think it only means that the nuclear weapon program of the DPRK has reached a serious and a different level. And that's what is concerning to the international community today.
Meanwhile, in a major military show of strength, South Korea carried out live-fire exercises on Monday, simulating an attack on the North's nuclear test site. The country said there were signs of more ballistic missile launches by the North. South Korean president spoke to US President Donald Trump on the phone to devise further strategy to counter the North. 4 more launchers of the US THAAD missile defense system are to be deployed, with the US also looking to have a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to seize off the Korean peninsula.
미국에 대해 핵 투발 수단 확보를 과시하는 차원에서 ICBM급 탄도미사일을 발사할 가능성도 있는 것으로 전망됩니다.
Sunday's nuclear test, claimed by the North to be a hydrogen bomb, was accompanied by North Korea's announcement that the weapon could be fitted on a missile that could reach the United States. It was North Korea's 6th nuclear test to date. The US Geological Survey recorded a resulting tremor at 6.3 magnitude. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And on to sports now, ace tennis player Rafael Nadal, Carolina Pliskova and Andrei Rublev have reached the quarterfinals of the ongoing US Open Tennis Championship at the Flushing Meadows in New York. World number 1 Rafael Nadal beat Ukraine's Alexander Dolgopolov 6-2, 6-4, 6-1. And a 2-time US Open winner, Nadal is on course to win his 2nd Grand Slam of the year. Nadal will now face the Russian Andrei Rublev. Rublev earlier beat Belgian David Goffin 7-5, 7-6, 6-3. Meanwhile, in another match, a top seed Carolina Pliskova of the Czech Republic put an end to American Jennifer Brady with a 6-1, 6-0 win. She will now face US player Coco Vandeweghe in the quarter-final. That's all in this edition of News. Thanks for watching. Have a great day ahead.